Hi everyone, it's Kate Byers, founder of Corporate Women Unleashed, where we help female executives and high-achieving women create work-life balance without giving up your successful career. And on today's video, I want to share with you a topic that comes up a lot in my discussions with women, which is how to negotiate successfully. Now, a lot of women will ask me, how do you successfully negotiate, for example, a flexible schedule or less workload, especially when you're in a leadership position where, the thought is that you've got to make every business trip, be available for every meeting, and just always on. Okay, so it's a great question. And the fear is always that if you ask and you don't get what you want, now you're stuck. Right? And women especially, they won't continue to negotiate, right? We ask and we say like, hey, is it okay if we work from home on Fridays? And if we're told no, we just like freeze and stop and we don't continue to negotiate. And it is scary, but there's some things that you need to know to do it well. So the truth is that negotiation is quite simple and it's really straightforward if you follow these 4 principles I'm going to share with you right here. Now, first of all, you must realize that negotiation starts long before you need the outcome. And this is a big mistake I see a lot of women make, which is, you've been showing up and demonstrating yourself as a hard worker, someone who gets the job done, and then all of a sudden you need something. You become a mother and you want to stay home with your child, you want to take an extra long maternity leave, you want a flexible schedule, whatever. And now all of a sudden you need something and you don't have a leg to stand on because you have not been showing up and demonstrating your unique value. You haven't been leveraging it from the get-go. So instead of being seen as a high-value employee and an employee that your employer really wants to retain, you're just sort of like, you're good and you're very successful, you're an achiever, but you're like the person who gets the job done, right? So you just don't have as much leverage because you haven't created this sense of you being really priceless. Does that make sense? So that's the very first thing you need to realize is that right now you need to be showing up and leveraging your value and be very strong and focused in that because that's what's going to make everyone in your company go, whoa, I'm more than happy to make some compromises with her because she brings XYZ to the table, okay? The next thing is that negotiation happens when 2 people want something. The other problem I see a lot of women making is it's not really negotiation. It's more like a demand or a request. That's not a negotiation. If you don't know what the other person wants, what's their pain, what's their greatest challenge, or what brings them joy, if you don't know what they want out of the negotiation, it's not a negotiation. It's just you throwing around some demands or requests. So you need to understand whoever it is on the other side of the table, whether that's your boss, your leadership team, a colleague, your husband, whatever. What do they care about? What do they want? And until they want it, you can't make them want it, right? Like if you just started maternity leave, you can't go to your boss right now, 12 weeks before you're supposed to come back and go, hey, I want to negotiate time off when I come back from work, because they're like, you're already off from work. You're already out of sight, out of mind. This doesn't matter to me right now. You want to negotiate that when your boss is like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're coming back to work. We've missed you for 12 weeks. Now you're negotiating because your boss needs you, right? So you need to understand, how will you help them resolve whatever the issue is that they're having while you are basking in your newfound schedule, your new pay scale, your time off, your flexibility, your fewer business trips, whatever it is. You've got to meet them halfway, right? And you've got to demonstrate that you are going to be able, at a very high level, solve their needs. And this is just fascinating. This actually happened to me, oh boy, it wasn't too long ago. It was actually a woman who was negotiating with me, and she didn't realize what I wanted out of the negotiation. So she kept saying, well, Kate, I'll give you all this money if you do these 10 things for me. And the money wasn't what I wanted. I'm not interested in the money. I have money. What I wanted was a relationship. I want to work with people that I'm really jazzed about working with and who want amazing success and who want to do big things with their life. Like that's what jazzes me. That's what I wanted. And she didn't see that. So she kept pressing on this money negotiation. And it's just like, I'm sorry, we just cannot come to terms because that wasn't what's important to me. So guys, you have to really know what is important to that other person on the other side of the table. And don't just make it up. You need to figure that out. Okay. Third, guys, negotiation is always flexible, right? You cannot go in a negotiation and demand what you think works best for you. Like, women will like email me and they're like, okay, Kate, I got it all figured out. Like, if I could get Thursdays off at 2, Friday work from home, and I can just travel 3 times a year instead of 5 times a year, I think that would be good. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. It's great to know what you want, but that's very rigid, right? Like, what's the end game? What are you really negotiating for? You're negotiating for flexibility. You're negotiating for more time off with your kids. You're negotiating for more control over your schedule, right? So that's what you're negotiating for, not Thursdays at 2 and 3 business trips a year. So you need to be flexible, keeping in mind what that other person wants, and duck and weave. You know, the first round of negotiations, you may not get all the way to the home run. You might just get to first base. So let's take first base and let's play the game at first base for a while and see how that goes. And then you can take it to another level. Or, you know, maybe it's temporary. Maybe you say, hey, for the next 30 days, I want to try this. Or whatever, you start skipping out of a few meetings that are less relevant. See how it goes, right? You have to try these things on. So if you go in very rigid, it's going to be much harder for you to achieve what you want. And then fourth, negotiation is ongoing, right? Like, a lot of women will get something in writing like, well, when I started with this job, they promised me I'd have Friday work from home. Well, that's great, but negotiation outcomes can change. Like, people can take that away from you, right? Like, companies change, cultures change, bosses change. So unless you are leveraging your value, solving those major pain points, and being flexible, the negotiation, whatever the terms are, can go away. So you can't just set it and forget it. You constantly are working towards demonstrating your value, being the A player that you are within the confines of whatever you've negotiated, right? So don't forget that. Okay, so look, even if you're in the C-suite, I do not care what level you are at. I see women over and over again flounder when it comes to negotiation. And almost in the C-suite, it's worse in some ways, because a lot of women, when you get to that executive level, there's this expectation that there's some leverage that comes with your title. And I think one of the most shocking things for me was that that's not really true. I mean, you may have a team and you may have more people that report into you, but now you're just in a different fishbowl, right? So now you just have different players to negotiate with. So you really have to understand the fine points of negotiation. You can't just anticipate or expect that your title is going to get you somewhere. You know, and you cannot ask permission. You cannot demand what you believe is due to you. And that also goes for you if you're in a leadership position, how you negotiate with your team, right? If you're going to be very demanding to them, or you're not going to be very flexible to them, you guys have heard me say this before, it all comes back to you in a mirror. So if you're tough and you're not a good, you know, you're not a very flexible negotiator, it's going to be really hard for you to be a flexible negotiator on your own behalf. Because you just subliminally and subtly, you will be taking that with you into your negotiation process. So practice what you preach, or preach what you want to practice, I guess. And you must create win-win outcomes, you know, and that comes with knowing what's important to the person on the other side of the table. In Corporate Women Unleashed, one of the women who just joined our program, she's got a very, very high-level negotiation going on right now with her executive team. You know, and we're sort of working our way through that right now. And one of the first things I said to her, I said, what do they want? And we just started talking through some of the conversations they've had and the things that we're hearing. And it's like, okay, this is what they want. That is what you need to go in and deliver within this ask that you're making, right? And so you've got to be very, very clear on how to create a win-win outcome. And as long as the other person is getting their needs met and their pain is going away, they pretty much don't care what you're doing. I mean, honestly, think about it with your direct reports. As long as they're making your life great, they're getting the job done, things are delivered, blah, blah, do you really care? You don't, right? Just make my life easy. Okay, and warning, what you think the other person wants may not be accurate, right? Like, just like that story, that woman who's negotiating with me, she thought all I cared about was money. And if anyone who spends 5 minutes in a room with me will know that that's not what drives me. Money does not drive me. It never has. It's always the work, the creative process, the ability to do things that move the needle. That's what I care about. So you need to be cultivating relationships and asking smart questions. You need to get to know that other person, and you've got to navigate your career with other people in mind before you can design a better path for yourself. So if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're feeling burnt out right now, and you're just like, I need to negotiate something, well, you're going to have to put a little bit more work and savvy into that process before you can just sit down at the table and get your needs met. Okay? The difference between successful women who know how to do this and successful women who don't is confidence and control. You can be successful because you're a hard worker. Everyone who's a hard worker becomes a success. If you work really hard, keep your nose to the grindstone, you will go up the career ladder and succeed, right? That's what a high achiever does. But if you want to be successful now at this level and you want to start enjoying the fruits of your labor and be successful in all areas of your life, you now have to be confident and in control of your career and creating mutually beneficial outcomes for everyone involved. Okay, now here is a great example of someone we've helped. Elisa is an amazing client who joined Corporate Women Unleashed last fall because she wasn't getting the fulfillment out of her career that she felt like she should at this point. She's just incredibly bright, incredibly brilliant, complete high value contributor. I mean, she's like one of the smartest people I know. And she's in this really niche career with very few options. You know, she can't just go walk down the street from one corporation to the next and like get the next job. She's the family breadwinner, and she said, you know, I'm doing these projects at work and I feel like I'm just bumping my head against the wall. I'm not getting the juicy projects, the good projects, the strategic projects that I should be working on. I feel like my boss kind of protects those, and I've been working for her for 3 years and I don't know how to get those back from her. Like, how do I do that, right? And so she was really kind of sad about it because none of us want to go to work every day and feel like we're just pushing paper around or sharpening our pencil, right? And she has so much value to bring to the table, but she felt like she was working for this challenging boss, or, you know, she and her boss misunderstood each other. How do I get on the same page with my boss so that I can get the more fulfilling assignments and really feel like, you know, I'm supporting her and she's supporting me? Well, we started working together on the very things we just talked about, right? Which is, how do you establish your value? How do you really understand what your boss is about? And we realized that some of the scripts her boss had, some of the scripts that she had, and some of the needs that they both had were almost like on the antithesis, like the opposite ends of the spectrum. So I started coaching Elisa, and she was so phenomenal because every time I would ask her to do something, it would like scare her to death, and she'd be like, oh my God, really? I have to go do that? But I was like, yeah, let's start trying this out in a safe environment. So we started trying things out at home, in her home life. And then we slowly started bringing them into the work environment. And as she started changing her behavior and changing some things that she was saying and changing some ways that she was showing up in meetings, ways that she was like discussing things with her boss started to soften, right? And the barriers came down, and her boss started going like, wow, I really like working with you. And Elisa was like, oh my God. And she started getting the more fulfilling assignments. And these projects shifted for her from like menial to impactful and meaningful, where she was now able to go into these meetings and contribute at a very high level. And she was able to do this really cool work, all because she learned new communication strategies. And we did some personal development on those scripts that you've heard me talk about, where she started changing her behaviors and habits. And now she was able to influence her boss. And she was able to be seen as a woman of influence within her department. And she started getting, you know, more and more attention as someone who could really not only manage these really cool projects, but should be the go-to person for them, right? And it was such a relief for her boss, because now her boss could go off and do all this other killer stuff that she wanted to do. And the other thing that's great for Elisa now is that she is successfully networking across functional lines. She's widening her reach, and she was already pretty good at doing this, right? But a lot of times it was being done like under the wire, or, you know, kind of quietly in the background. Well, now she's doing it much more boldly. And as her confidence with this new approach and this shift in her behaviors has really started to set in place, you know, other groups are starting to come to her and saying, wow, you're awesome at this. Can we borrow you? You know, can you come be an advisor for us? And think how great that is, because now what Elisa is doing is she's empowering herself for new opportunities and upward growth, and really positioning herself for some positions that, you know, are long overdue for her. So I'm super excited. She was incredibly coachable, incredibly committed to the process, and just fearless. I mean, absolutely fearless. And that's what it takes. Now, a lot of women will say, okay, what do you teach in Corporate Women Unleashed? Well, we teach women how to create work-life balance without giving up a successful career. The myth is that you either have to step back, you know, to be a mom, or to start enjoying your life, or to travel more, or travel more for pleasure, travel less for business, or that you just have to keep your foot on the gas pedal and just like somehow survive until you get to retirement. And both of those are not true. So in Corporate Women Unleashed, the first thing we do is we teach women how to powerfully unplug, right? Because there's no sense in having more hours in your schedule if you're still worried about work all the time. And high achievers, we really don't know how to disconnect. So we teach you how to unplug from work with confidence so that you're present and you're enjoying the simple moments you're currently missing, and you're not always on. You're not always worried about work. You're not always thinking about the next problem you have to solve. Work is work, life is life, and you can start enjoying your life with real joy. Second, we teach women how to create balance, because balance isn't something you've ever been taught, right? What we think balance is like going to work, doing a whole bunch of work, and then running around really quickly, doing as much as possible in our personal life to try to feel like we've had a life. And all that makes you is exhausted. So we teach women how to elevate all areas of your life at one time through some very simple strategies that are easy to implement in your life, and it starts bringing this instant calm. Like literally within a week or two of working with us, even the most burnt out executive who's working 80 hours a week, they start going, oh my God. And like you just see it in their voice and in their face. They're lighter, they're calmer, they just feel more at peace. And that well-being and success that you're missing in the other areas of your life, it just starts infiltrating, and it's so incredible. The other thing is you got to recalibrate. Like success does not have to come at a cost. And if you believe that, you will always have your nose to the grindstone. So we show you how to recalibrate your thinking and learn new strategies and behaviors so that really your relationship with your work changes. The job doesn't change. You don't have to change your career. You don't become less valuable. You don't have to be sneaking around to try to take time off. You will just confidently deliver very high performance that you're capable of, without sacrificing hours of personal time in the process. And most women who start working with us, within a week or two, we shave off 5 to 10 hours of work every week. Like literally, like forever. So think of what you could do with 5 to 10 hours of like of free time a week. Like I think most women would be happy with 1 extra hour a week, let alone 5 to 10, right? So this really helps you clear your mind, clear some space to start living your life, taking care of your health, engaging really in connecting with your husband and your kids. And then finally, it's coaching, right? Because successfully creating work-life balance at this level, it is not achieved through just like poking around in a few books and trying a few things. It is achieved through expert mentoring, so you can get feedback on what you cannot see. You're already an A player. So just like an A player at a basketball game, like a pro basketball player, you're already really good. You show up on the court, but what does the coach do? The coach says, all right, look, that you're doing, that's awesome. Keep doing that. But this over here, we got to refine it. We've got to adjust it. And this, you have to stop. Like this, we need to make go away because this is not helping you get where you want to be. And what this does is it very quickly helps you assimilate new thinking and behavior to get you exactly the results you want to see, so you can start living your beautifully balanced life now and not spend 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. I mean, most women never dial it in, right? You want to dial it in now, and that's what the coaching does for you. So, can you create work-life balance without giving up your successful career? Well, absolutely. If you have built a successful career, then you can absolutely build a successfully balanced life. Now, though, you have a choice. Right? Because you can file this information away and stay stuck in excuses. Well, let me try some meditation. Oh, this year I think I'll get up early and go work out, and that'll make me feel better. Do you want to feel better? Or do you want to be like amazingly successful in all areas of your life? Do you want to look great, feel great, have an amazing relationship with your husband, be an involved mom? Because the women we work with, that's what they want without giving up their incredible career. You can create a new version of success right now that is balanced and fulfilling without the burnout, and without stepping back. And you can start enjoying your life. So here's what I have for you. We have set aside time to speak with you about your career in the next 48 hours and how you can create balance in your own life. What we're going to do is on a 45-minute phone call, we're going to identify what's really preventing you from enjoying a balanced life. We're going to look at what's working and what's not working for you in your life when it comes to work-life balance, and then how you can start to recalibrate your career to create a calm, stress-free, and fun life. And we'll get you a clear vision of the work-life balance you want and what's possible for you. Now, there is a catch. This is not, the cost though is not the catch. It's absolutely free. But the catch is that it's not for everyone, right? You must be a corporate high achiever who is successful at what you do. You do not have to be in the C-suite, but you need to be highly successful, someone who brings their A game, potentially a breadwinner or a leader, but in a very high successful and high stress job. You have struggled with disconnecting from work and you are feeling the burnout from the constant pressure. You are someone who is ready for work-life balance. You are committed at this point to reprioritizing your life, but you don't want to sacrifice your successful career. And you should be excited about this possibility, right? And then finally, you're not necessarily looking for a new job, right? So finding fulfillment in your job is a piece of what we do. And that's very important because if you're in a job that you don't love, well, then you're not going to find work-life balance, right? You're going to not want to get out of bed. But this isn't about like just pulling the trigger and finding a new job. It's about creating a balanced life. Now, to do that, if that describes you, I want you to go to KathleenByers.com/session. That will take you to my calendar, and the next available slots that are open will show up. Pick a appointment time that works for you. And be sure to book it on your calendar and show up for that appointment, because what we're going to do in that 45 minutes is have the best time talking about you and your career. And many women will tell me like, oh my God, Kate, this was so much fun. Like, this was the best time I've had talking about myself in a long time. So give yourself that gift. Now, after you book the appointment time, it'll bounce you to a questionnaire. Fill that out. And if you're on your mobile, just come back later and do it. Because that's going to help prep you and kind of get you focused for the call, and it's going to help me get focused for the call so that together we can use the best use of our time. So thanks again for listening to this video, and I look forward to talking to you soon.